Hello.
Hello.
How are you,
I'm
Lauren Spearman?
excited.
How you doing?
I'm great. I've always thought you were super amazing ever since that event that the Black Chamber of Commerce did when you were on the panel. Yes, we were at a restaurant
In
in
Clayton,
Clayton.
yeah.
Yes.
Karan Bowman was, I believe, one of the
Uh-huh.
speakers also. Yeah, Vita Jeffries. She was the brains and body. She's so amazing behind that project.
Super amazing. So I've been following you ever since that day.
Well, what's funny, I've been following you too, and when I tell you, it seems like you came, you gathered, and you launched. It was like, I'm not here to play with you folks. So this is great. So just want to say welcome to you. Welcome to all of our guests. Welcome to another segment of Conversations in the Nick of Time. I'm your host, Nikki Roach, and it is always a pleasure to bring amazing, absolutely amazing guests to you. Those of you who are new to the platform, this is my classroom. Those of you who know me know that I'm an educator at heart. And I believe there's a leader in all of us, but it takes leadership excellence and leadership accidents to really flesh out and define what success is for us. And today we have an amazing guest lined up to kind of tell us and share with us insights of her journey. As I mentioned, I kind of have been behind the scenes and watching from a distance how she has taken a seed, planted those seeds, and now she's reaping the harvest. I love it. But I want to thank Sparkman Pathway to Careers and KSTL 690 AM for being our host, our backbone, and for trusting me with this platform. And then also thanks to you for trusting me also with your time, your ear. And I do not take that lightly. And that's why I'm so cautious of the guests. I consider it an honor to be here. So I'm hoping my guests, that each and every last one of them, you find something that is that much more rewarding, for you even tuning in because of me. I appreciate that. I don't take that lightly. And so, speaking of taking things lightly and not taking them so lightly, our guest today, who is absolutely amazing right here in St. Louis. I had a chance to meet her and cross paths, as you heard during the intro. Um, this special, beautiful lady, as I'm starting our timer, she is known as the bounce back advocate. She's a native of St. Louis and a proud mother of two with a passion for helping others discover and cultivate purpose. As a faith based inspirational speaker, her monk year, the bounce back advocate, was bestowed upon her by her mentor, Ivy McGregor, because she is a true fan of comeback stories. And so, I am too.
Yeah.
Drawing from her own personal testimony, Lauren is a hands on cheerleader and coach, helping others dig deep and to do the work to discover their why. In October of 2020, she launched her highly successful premiere episode of her mental wellness podcast with those flashy, lovely, swagged out flyers. I was like, oh, let me amp up my. No, I love them. And I love this the title of this. The podcast entitled Check on Your Strong Friends. And she launched that into a Facebook audience, and that has been going on live. Lauren, who also recently was voted as the chairwoman of the Young Professionals of the NAACP St. Louis County. I mean, whether it's in the area of business or personal well-being, she is in growth. Her key messages are rooted in self awareness and mental health and wellness. Due to her own triumph over depression and anxiety, Lauren is fueled by being an encouragement to countless people suffering in silence. Her message to them, that setback and your bounce back is all in the mindset. Absolutely amazing. How are you?
I am doing so Well, it's like kismet that we are meeting today because I actually just exclusive information just got my lease for my first office space today. So I'm super excited to be able to, go from a girl who just went through a whole tumultuous period of time in life to now I'm in business for myself with a legitimate office space.
So we've got so much to cover. One, because those who are joining us, this is like sister friend time because we get to know each other, get to know each other and and get to share this time together. So it is truly, when I say conversations in the nick of time, it's a conversation to help somebody else in the nick of time. And just jumping right in, you talk about the bounce back and um, your ability to help individuals find and understand their purpose, but their why.
Mm-hmm.
So critical. Um, all of us, and we, even the greatest, we can sometimes get blurred vision around that why.
Yeah.
And why is this something that you've delved into? I know you have some personal testimony, but share what you desire with us.
Absolutely. So basically, I went through a period of time in 2017 where I lost everything from the apartment I was living in to a 10 plus year relationship to the car I was driving to my mind. It was like one thing after the other, one piece of bad news after the other. And I remember just sitting in bankruptcy court thinking like, God, have you forgotten about me? Like, is this it? Is this all that, I've come to? Because my identity was wrapped up in the different roles that I was playing. It was wrapped up in being somebody's partner, wrapped up in being, my children's mother, wrapped up in being an employee to a corporation. And I had lost who Lauren was, what my dreams were, what I was put here to do. And I feel like it's important to have your why, because your why is what's going to sustain you and give you that drive to keep going when life is constantly throwing obstacles at you. And since I did not have that why, I delved into a deep, deep depression. I took a stress leave from work, and I had lost my faith in God because I thought he forgot about me. And I couldn't even fix my mouth to pray because I couldn't find the words. And I was very, very bitter. But luckily, there were a few people in my village who loved on me until I could love on myself again. And so they began to ask me those key questions like, what is it you've always wanted to do? What are your dreams? What do you think you were meant to do? And I was always the person who talked too much in school, and always the person who volunteered for the Easter speech and to MC and to talk at church. So I said, I've always loved people and I've always loved to speak. And so I kept that in the back of my mind. And as I continued to go through therapy, through those darkest moments, and I continued to heal, I realized that once I came out on the other side, that it wasn't just for me. It was so God could, refine me and help me identify that place in others and pull them out as well.
Yeah, and I always say, you cannot lead where you have not been.
Absolutely. That's why I love how you opened it when you talked about having leadership excellence and leadership accidents, because I promise it's those accidents that have shaped me and molded me and made me.
Oh yeah, but yet we run from that very thing.
Yeah.
Or we're quick to say the enemy. We're quick to say haters, and I've learned that even when we have the haters, if they're not talking about you, that means you're not doing anything. If
Exactly.
they are talking about you, something's happening. So give them something to talk about.
Exactly. And even with the enemy, if he's not chasing you, it's because you're already on his side.
Or you're not doing nothing to be interrupted, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, just undergoing all of that. And then in the middle of that, I found out that my baby was diagnosed with autism. And so I went through a whole thing where I blamed myself for that. But the beauty in that turned out to be a very special person who pulled me to the side and said, God must really think highly of you to put you as the mother over a special needs child. And that literally flipped my whole perspective. And now when I talk about autism, I talk about it as a stroke of genius. I don't talk about it as a setback. So it's just, those situations that I went through that were, I won't say meant for my bad, but that may have looked bad, have shaped me into the person I am today.
And how is it that you are able to, and we're not even to current day, I'm still in the
Mhm.
space that you mentioned in 2017. And then you find this information, you find out more information, you lose a couple things, you lose your why, you get a circle around you. But at the same time, a lot of us are trying to find that one
Mhm.
thing, like, and it's like our big break. And I am a advocate of, it's not going to always, yes, there is a one thing that is your foundation, but we find, like you said, you were working at a company, you're a mom, you had this business. I would say even at that time you were already working. It was being worked out. And
Exactly.
how is it that you have managed to juggle during that time all of those different things at the same time?
Oh my goodness. It was definitely a task because I went from kind of drowning in all of those roles to having to decompartmentalize my life and make sure to prioritize, family and what was important to me, but also prioritize me and make time for my self-care, self-growth, and self-development. And I always tell people that purpose is something that either lies in what you really, really, really love or what you really, really, really can't stand. And that's something that I picked up from Pastor Marcus Gill, because it's either like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. It drives me to wake up in the morning. I can't stop thinking about it. Or it's like, I can't stand this problem. I've got to be the one to fix it.
And it keeps
It's
me up
one of
at
those things. And it keeps me up at night because I have to be the one, whether it's, women that are affected by domestic violence, just as an example. I can't stand this so much. I'm going to be the one that starts a nonprofit organization. I'm going to house these women. I'm going to give them resources. So purpose is really found in passion. And it can either be really, really good passion or it can be negative passion. But somewhere in there, you will find what drives you and what you're put on this earth to do.
Yeah, and that's such a great point, because many people will say, like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And I think I like this, I think I like that, but I'm like, trust me, you're already doing, or you're at least
Yes.
dabbling in it already. It's just that we always go to, if I can't make money off of it, or how can I figure out how to make money off of it, or it's not making money, somewhere in one of those buckets, and we kind of brush it off. But it's the
Yeah.
very thing
It's the very thing.
that
And
people call
and
you to do all
that's the
the time.
key. That's exactly the key, is what you just said. And for me, that was, people would always call me and say, I wrote this paragraph, or I've got this resume. I need you to juice up the words. I need you to put your flair on it. I need you to fluff it up. I need you to proofread it. So for me, speaking, writing, that was natural because people always called me to do it for them. So I love how you brought up that point. It's what people call upon you to do, and the money will come. Now there's a whole career that's called writing copy and writing captions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when they talk about, your gift will make room for you, some people take it in the literal sense, like, you take a gift to a room and it puts you among kings. But then some people talk about it in the sense of your talent will open doors for you.
And it does both ways, but
Mm-hmm.
really the latter, in regards to um what it is that you do. And I've learned that it's not that you're just going to be a master at it. It is just like any muscle. You have to exercise it. You have to use it.
Mhm.
It's stronger than others. But it doesn't mean you walk away from it. It just means that, okay, I didn't use as much strength or exert as much strength as I needed to this time, or that I've done in the past with other scenarios or situations. But it is a matter of continuing to use that strength and continuing to operate in that gift, or talent, and because no one just becomes just this master of everything, because
Mm-mm.
regardless of what it is that you're great at, it changes, and we are human. We evolve, we change, people change. No different than, oh my gosh, all of the different things that have come to the forefront, like you were talking about, these new avenues with writing. Just consider, since we've been in self isolation, we're just now
Yes.
about a year. Do you know how many things have been tapped into using technology that somebody like played around with, but now it's an actual thing?
Now it's a thing. And I charge people that even if you are not uh, in an entrepreneurship position, even if you are working for a company, there's a beautiful woman by the name of Ebby Nicole. And she said that she could not stand her job. She was going to a job, she was doing administrative work, she was running errands, she was coordinating things, and she could not figure out why she was in this dead end job. But she said once she became an entrepreneur, an aha light bulb went off that everything that she was doing for that company was preparation that she was going to need when she started her own business. The administrative work, the consulting, the coordinating, all of those tasks she was able to use. So don't despise small beginnings. Don't despise a 9 to 5, because God uses everything to work for your good.
Oh yeah, and I'm telling you, I have witnessed personally going through that process, to where it's like, I'll do it. Sign me up to do something, and we call them stretch assignments. Those are the things
Mhm.
your job can teach you while you're getting paid. So I call
Yep.
jobs paid internships.
Exactly.
Figure out how you can plug into things, and it may be something that you're like, not too interested in that. But for me, it was something that happened where it wasn't something that I was even that knowledgeable of. But I raised my hand. I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll fill in. And it was the very person who was in that meeting that I had to interview with for my next role.
Yep.
Last position I interviewed for.
Because God is so intentional, and the way that he weaves people and situations and opportunities together, it's mind blowing. So it's like the moment that we change our mindset from, oh my God, I can't stand this job. Oh my God, why me? And start to appreciate the opportunities and the lessons, we start to see how those doors open. And it's like, oh God, I see what you were doing there. I see why I went to a luncheon over a year and a half ago, and I met Nikki Roach, and I thought she was so amazing, because you saw even then that this moment was going to come full circle, that I would be able to look at this woman and say, oh my gosh, how did I go from, sitting in the audience gleaning wisdom to now being interviewed by you? Like, that's how it works when you just shift your mindset.
It's true. Now, what would you say is something that has taken you the longest to learn? Like a lesson that's taken you the longest to learn up to this?
Mm, let me think. Time management for sure. I am a creative at heart.
Now, if you have a formula for that, please email me after we're done.
So time management, but I would say the biggest one that just came to my mind is delegation.
Good
As
one.
a solopreneur, I have tried to take on everything on my shoulders and control everything, every touch contact, everything. And it has literally got to the point where I was like, I'm starting to forget things, or I'm not executing properly, or I'm literally burnt out. So I am just now, through my mentor, Ivy McGregor, learning the art of delegation, assembling a team, and redistributing the weight is what she said.
Oh my gosh. And I had to learn that right before COVID hit.
Hmm.
And it was a blessing because I got a chance to actually figure some things out. Because in that distribution of those tasks that we have as solopreneurs, what's interesting is it doesn't have to be a human being.
No,
And I
it
had
could
to,
be systems.
so I had to put systems in place though, even
Hmm.
platform, because we couldn't go into the studio anymore. So I was
Yeah.
like, just scratch the show. And there, Miss Linda Galloway's like, no,
No,
how it's
you
going.
gotta pivot. We can't scratch. This is too good for people to miss.
So I'm like, oh my God. So I had to learn all of this stuff. And I'm telling you, I was not happy. I was not happy because I show up. Yes, I produce the shows, I book the guests, I do the research, but there's a team that does everything else. But
Hmm.
it was such a blessing on the other end of all of this that I had
Yeah.
to learn, because now I have a different level of expectation, which
Hmm.
I should have, right? Because
Absolutely.
and so this is going back to, you can't lead where you've not been.
Yep.
So but then I'm like, oh, so Canva is free, but I can upgrade and get some animation.
Yes.
Oh my God, so you got
Upgrade and remove the background from the picture.
transparency. Then I said, oh my God, I have Calendly. I can actually have different calendars because I've had it.
Yep.
But then I went ahead and paid the little extra. And now that's a whole virtual assistant process I have. So
And Planoly is good too, allowing you to plan your post in advance.
okay, I don't know about that one.
Yes. So it's like if I know that every Wednesday at 12 noon, I want to put out a motivational post, but say I have a meeting coming up on that Wednesday, I can literally, whenever I get a free moment, whether it's 2 in the morning or whenever it is, I can put that post into Planoly and set the time. And Planoly will post it for me to my social media platforms at the precise moment that I say.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to check this out because I was using Hootsuite, but Hootsuite got so complicated.
Oh, yeah.
I just totally scratched it.
Planoly is very good.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Resources in the nick of time. so, so with that, you have. What did you end up doing for time management? As you mentioned, time management.
So for time management, I took a class with Erin Joy, who is a wonderful business consultant,
What
and
things?
she's so awesome. I'm actually in her Fuel to Fire entrepreneurship accountability pod right now. So I'm matched with
Whole
different
nother topic.
diverse women. Yeah. But so what she taught me was, she said at the end of every week, just take some time out, maybe an hour or two, to plan your next week. That way your next week is already in the bag. And then she said on a daily basis, what you do is the first part of your morning, you address those, new emails or those fresh things that you missed overnight. And then the second half of your day is your plan for the next day.
Okay.
So, anything that you want to put out there, any emails you want to send or any content you want to create for the next day. That way, your time is always being used productively and you're not feeling like you're overwhelmed because you're always caught up from the night before and planning for the day ahead.
Okay. So how is that working for you?
That is working so well for me. She has been amazing.
That's good. I know for me, I talk often about time blocking. I'm a
Yes.
I'm a huge time blocker, and when I tell you, for me, it works. Now I do get off sometimes, and my blocks bleed together. They bleed together, but they are. It really works, and it helps to
Mhm.
make sure you're focused. And they say research says it's good to work on something for like 60 to 90 minutes and then break from it. And some will say
Yeah.
5 minutes, depending on who the researcher is that you're reading, because we can really zone in, get it done. And so sometimes I will even set a timer to get myself through a process. Another thing was there is Mind Valley. Mind Valley, you can go to
Never
mindvalley.com.
heard of it.
They do all of this inspirational leadership development, but kind of like from the inside out. They really work from the heart, from the mind perspective, because that impacts how we show up and how much we give, and that space of excellence is what I draw from it. But there was one master class, and I'm looking at their faces, but I can't call their names. But it was about one thing they mentioned was the 20-20-20 rule. 20-20-20. So the 20-20-20 rule is like you you give yourself, so that's that's what, an hour. Get up an hour before your world wakes up.
Okay.
And so our world wakes up differently because we're on different schedules. And so for me, that's like 5 o'clock. So if I get up at 5 o'clock, I spend 20 minutes. First thing, move my body, get that heart rate up, do some working out. The next 20 minutes, journaling of gratitude.
That's good.
And journal of gratitude. And the third set of, well, the next set of 20 minutes is be a student in some capacity. So what I did, I realized, okay, I can't just jump from getting up at 6 a.m. to start my day, which sometimes is kind of like, okay, depending on the day, hop up, I'm doing this, and this, I'm moving or doing emails. But I tried this, but I scaled it back to fit me and my world, because my world, yes, 6 o'clock, around 7, stuff is dinging, popping, people are moving, and yeah. And I totally get the fact that if you get up before your world gets up and make that sacrifice, I show up different. But what I did, I haven't been doing 20 minutes, 20-20-20 rule. I made it 5-5-5 rule just to get started.
Yeah.
So I get up for 5 minutes, I hit my elliptical, and I'm on there a solid 5 minutes, and then I'll kind of walk a little bit. And now that it's changing outside, I may go for a short walk. 5 minutes. After that, I pray, but my thoughts are so clear. I pray, I read my daily bread, then I journal. I set the timer to journal, to journal once I start, not during prayer, not doing the reading. And then I set it and I write. And I write from that it's like this pure place, but I'm like so free mentally. Then that last 5 minutes, I pull up, and it actually goes a little longer than 5 minutes. I pull up a podcast, because you're usually running between 15 and 30 minutes. And so I will listen to at least the 15 minutes undistracted. And then I may catch up with the news after that. When I tell you,
it makes a world of difference. It does.
I fought it. And I just only started this a month ago.
There is something different when you move around first thing in the morning, when you get that blood flowing, when you get those endorphins going. There is something different. And then when you do that intentional prayer and meditation. But what I love most about what you said is that you scaled it and tailored it to you, because everything is not a one size fits all. What works for Nikki won't work for Lauren, which won't work for Jane Doe. But rather than you overwhelming yourself to the point where you would probably just throw 20-20-20 out the window, you scaled it to you
so that I can
and made it work.
And my word this year has been consistency.
Yep.
That's been my thing that keeps me up at night. And I'm sharing all this because to set others who are listening up, when you talk about what you do and why you do what you do, which is to bring people into purpose and to why, without these formulas that you're sharing right now, not possible.
Oh no.
This work has to happen, because if you're raggedy,
you can't pour from an empty vessel.
Can't give what you don't have.
Exactly. So this is perfect for people to know, to not just walk into your day by accident, not just roll out of bed, not just oversleep, but be intentional.
I love that.
About your day.
I love that. Don't walk in on accident. You got to put that on a shirt. That is so amazing. And then, and when you talk about the why and the purpose, and then you transitioning into this space, I know you mentioned seeking out help.
Mhm.
From your perspective, what is it that we can do to demystify this whole concept of asking for help?
It's one of the hardest things that I have to do to this day. And I think that's why, when it comes to check on your strong friends, I said that there's also a responsibility for the strong friend to be honest. Because if someone reaches out to you, you can't just say, I'm fine, because they're going to take you at face value. You have to be able to be honest and say, hey, I just don't have it in me today. Hey, can you take this off of my plate? Can you help me with this? Can you give me a moment to myself? You've got to be honest and intentional about asking for that help. And it's a lot of times what happens is people get afraid to ask for help because they feel like it will either make them appear weak, or someone will throw it back up in their face. It'll come back to bite them later. So I had gotten to the point where it would literally bring a lump in my throat and butterflies in my belly if I had to ask somebody to help me with something, to admit that I had fallen short, to admit, even if it was financial help, I didn't want somebody to judge me or to think that I made poor choices. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that people would much rather help you at your lowest point than to deal with the consequence of what may happen to you if you don't ask.
Right.
If you get overstressed and you get sick or worse, or if you allow yourself to get put out of your home as I did. My village would have much rather had me ask them in advance before it even got to that point, but I was so ashamed. I was so ashamed. So I just tell people that it's okay to not be okay. And it is okay to ask for help, because you never know, when you'll be able to pay that forward again.
Okay. So I'm processing some of what you said because of that one word, shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have it so twisted that as leaders, because you are aware, I think we are all called into leadership, and we all are in some shape, form, or fashion. Nothing to do with title. But as leaders, we find ourselves in this place of doing everything, just like you so eloquently stated, everything around what we could be doing to save ourselves
Yeah.
because of shame. Shame. And a lot of times it's shame with someone who needs the exact help or thing, or they have the exact thing we need.
Yep.
It's either or they've been there and they can actually, like, honey, let me throw out this lifeline for you. Been there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then sometimes we can be control freaks to the point where we feel like if we don't do it, it's not going to get done right. But we have to be able to let go of that spirit of perfectionism, because it will kill you to try to hold and carry and do everything by yourself.
Yeah, I know JP Phillips was my quiet storm. She was on not too long ago. And it was one thing she said, and I mean, I've gone back to listen to her show, and there's been so much amazing feedback. But she said that perfection is the bottleneck of not, I'm paraphrasing, but not having progress.
Mm-hmm.
Perfection is the bottleneck of not having
Because
progress.
you'll just not do anything.
Been there,
and
done.
and I can only say it, right, I can only say it because I can relate. I didn't write a book for so long because I was like, it has to be perfect. Every single word has to go off the page, jump off, and hit that person in the heart like I'm Maya Angelou. If it's not
And,
that, I'm not gonna do it.
yeah, and oh my God, that's not enough words. And oh my
Yeah.
God, can somebody else already say that? Who
Mm-hmm.
I am to say that? Blah, blah. So you have this whole war going on, and it's like, get it done. Just do it.
Just do it. And I'm so glad you brought her up, because JP is like you said, a quiet storm. She's so humble and modest, but she is such an amazing resource, of wealth of information, an entrepreneurial genius. And she is one of like the top people on my team that knows all things Lauren Spearman, business and personal. Like,
That's awesome.
she's amazing.
Awesome. Now, when you moved forward with Check on Your Strong Friends, I absolutely love the title. Absolutely love it. So much in that message. What was it that I know you mentioned starting off because it was pretty much, again, it was something that was personal,
Mhm.
but making the decision of it being an idea, so moving past ideation into execution, what would you have done different knowing what you know now?
Mm. I would have done it sooner. I would have done it sooner. I ran away from podcasting because I said, everybody has a podcast. And so I was like, it's such a diluted space. I don't want to be just another person with a podcast. Who's going to listen to me? Why would anybody want to listen to me? And when I tell you it's such a blessing when you can check those numbers and you're like, somebody in Singapore cares about what I have to say, and somebody in the UK. But it's just a blessing to hear like the different testimonials that people give in regards to it. And for me, it was these two gentlemen, Palmer Alexander III and Arlington Lane. I was a guest on their show on In the Zone Network. They're amazing men with a great career in radio. But they were the ones who said, you should have your own show. And I ran from it. But then I finally caved. And I said, what would it be about? Like, what am I that passionate about that I would put a whole show around it? And I thought back to how shocked and surprised I was at the death of Robin Williams, and how shocked and surprised I was at the death of Kate Spade, and how shocked and surprised even more recently with the attorney from Brown and Brown. Yeah. And it just a light bulb went off, like, check on your strong friends, because you never know the people that seem the most happy, bubbly, successful, the ones who ask for help the least need it the most.
Going back to that shame.
Yep.
Not saying at all that was their thing, but how many times have we felt shame? I'm not saying that we've, had thoughts outside of just having shame or embarrassment or whatever other word you want to put in that blank. But I'm aware of individuals who couldn't think past that, decided to end their lives, and the after effect.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's like
heavy, to say the least. And
yeah,
even individuals that I know, young and older, if you're right, if I could have reached out and said something, it could have made the difference. And you think that. And so to think about it from check on your strong friends, that whole saying, and what we're going through, what we've been through this past year.
Yeah.
And people are losing in all kind of ways, but yet at the same time gaining so much, And even in the gaining, you still need to check on your, we look at it through a lens of defeat, negative, loss, but sometimes you need to check on even with wins.
Yeah.
Life changes when we win.
Life changes, and there is mounting pressure to stay. It's pressure to get there, and once you get there, it's pressure to stay there and to try to go even higher.
Yes.
That's why they say new levels, new devils, because it just, you have a whole other thing to worry about. Like a few years ago, I think my biggest worry was, what am I going to cook for dinner? Am I going to get this laundry not only washed but folded? But now coming into a place of of being a quote unquote public figure,
Uh-huh.
it's an amazing thing to be able to affect people and impact people. But then you also kind of have to look over your shoulder, like, okay, is every opportunity meant for me? Is every person meant to have access to me or connect to me? So it's like every decision is not just as simple anymore.
Yeah. And we always have to be careful what you ask for.
Yeah,
You just might
you
get.
just might get it.
And we think we're able to handle, but some of this stuff will take us clean out of here or out
Mm-hmm.
of our rockers if God really opened the door the way we've been asking him and nagging nagging him for certain things. And you're right, it's like, okay, let's ease into this because there as the table gets bigger, everything else gets bigger. As the wallet
Everything.
gets bigger, everything around it gets bigger. Good, bad, and ugly.
So that's why I love how you focus on the fact that there are a lot of leadership accidents, but those accidents lead to that leadership excellence that you talked about, because it's a pruning and refinement process that we go through, and we take each lesson that we learn to that next level so that we are able to navigate the waters a lot better the next time.
Yeah, yeah. So now you find yourself shifting, not just shifting from the podcast and you Facebook Live. And did you go through any of those newbie jitters? I will say newbie jitters, but it's not even newbie because my thing is, you end up with them all the time if you're a person like me, so where you just want
If you care about what you do, you'll
yes,
always have them.
um, but moving from, because a podcast is very different
Mm-hmm.
going on a Facebook Live. Even though it's Facebook, it's still live.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It's definitely jitters because of the fact that there's no editing. It's live, raw, and uncut. And also, I can record a podcast in my pajamas, but being on Facebook, I have to be mindful of my personal appearance to make sure I'm polished, to make sure I'm prepared, because it's literally a one-shot take. But the beauty in Facebook Live that I love is the fact that your platform gets multiplied, because people are able to share it like real time. So if I can get like 65 shares on a Facebook Live, then I'm going to have upwards of like 3,000 to 4,000 views on that thing, because one person is sharing it with their network, who's sharing it with their network, and you never know who's watching you. I've had people who I've gone to events and I've been like, oh my gosh, so and so is in the room, and they'll know something about bounce back because of something that somebody that they knew shared, and it blows my mind. So yes, it's definitely nerve wracking with Facebook Live, but it's my favorite platform and my favorite thing to do.
That's good. And I asked you some of these questions. You may say, "Huh, that's an interesting question she's asking," but people need to hear because you have such momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You think like, oh, everybody's doing it, or that's not really my thing. But if you're, like you said, if you're really wanting to stick to it, you're wanting to grow that business, you're wanting to get that visibility, and the visibility is to grow the business, not so much
Yeah.
visibility. Hey, look at me. But I had to learn the hard way, and I'm still kicking and screaming in some instances. Like you have to be out there. You have to have FaceTime, literally, not just through your cell phone or these apps, but you literally have to have FaceTime. People need to know who you are because
Mm-hmm.
they can get. I don't care. Both of us sold strawberries, from a cart. It's not about the strawberry. It's about the experience.
Yeah,
It's about
that's key.
it's about what we bring, our essence that we bring to the experience. So what you do, I could never do, but I need what you have, and vice versa.
And vice versa, because there could be someone that hates strawberries or that's allergic to strawberries, but just because it's Nikki, I'm going to buy those strawberries.
And I
So
will
it's
give them as a gift.
all about the experience and how you put yourself out there and how you treat people. I mean, the pandemic is a perfect time. People are looking to have connection, and people are looking to listen to raw voices that understand what they're going through and aren't out of touch.
Yeah.
So this is the perfect time to connect and be personable and be exposed.
Yeah. And being exposed, you now have your own brick and mortar space for the company. What can we expect as you begin to put flowers and pictures on the walls and stuff like that?
Oh my goodness. And that's literally, I ordered an artificial plant today. Because I just feel like I want the look of greenery, but I don't have the discipline or the green thumb.
Hey, make it work for you, as you told me earlier.
But I'm super excited. So with the new office space and with JP that we talked about earlier, stepping into a booking manager role for me, it is going to allow me to free up so much time and space to finally write my book. So I actually signed with a publishing company called Purpose Publishing House. And I'm so excited to have my book done by December of 2021 to release in January of 2022.
Oh, that's around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So this book is finally going to be something more than just a notion in my head that I ran away from due to perfection jitters. And it's actually going to be put out there to hopefully help someone else that was going through their darkest time to see, listen, if I can overcome, if I can start over and change my mindset, you can too.
I love it. And then, so tell us about Bounce Back. What are the services? What are the, expectations? What, who's all involved? All of that.
So Bounce Back Advocate is the moniker I use when I speak. But it's also a nonprofit organization as well that I just started. And I am going to, with my amazing executive board, cater to women who are actually middle class. And I know that sounds so crazy because we always think about, people who are impoverished. But what I found is that when I first got furloughed from my job at the top of the pandemic, I tried to apply for government assistance and I couldn't get anything because they said I made too much money. And I thought, how many other women and mothers are out there going through the same thing, being penalized because, on paper they make a certain amount, but we all know that they have lifestyles. They have children who, they want to put in the best schools or in extracurricular activities, or they have medical bills or they have debt. So they don't bring home what it looks like they make on paper, and they need help too. So I decided to come up with a nonprofit that would cater to those women and offer retreat style pampering events, because those are mostly the women who would never think to spend on themselves or to splurge on themselves. We had a holiday event in 2019 in December. The pandemic took away the one that we were going to do in 2020, but we did it in 2019. And it was amazing. We had a chef, we had massage therapists. I also did an event in June where we had massages and facials. So just as a way to show those women appreciation, as well as we're going to start giving out anonymous donations to women. So like if they, need money for their bills, or if they, have a car that they need fixed or anything like that, they'll be able to get anonymous help and keep their dignity. Nobody will be flashing a camera in their face, because I just feel like a woman should not be penalized for working hard or for having a good job. So.
And that's very unique that you pull. But again, back to, this is something that you experience. This is
Mm-hmm.
true for you, and not just for you, but that's a forgotten group.
Yeah.
We do think like, oh, they've got it, they'll figure it out, they have access. But some of us are dealing with that shame, bringing this conversation full circle. We're dealing with
Yeah.
so many different things. Um, and that is amazing, to have such a target, a niched down target audience, which is usually the challenge when you're starting a business, because you just want to you have a bleeding heart to help everybody. But at the same time, this is, like you said, it's a group, um that also will be needing, as I've been doing some research when it comes to women in leadership. What's interesting is that many of us, they call it a she session instead of a recession is
Mm-hmm.
line right now, because many of us who are in that middle management, middle class female are leaving or have been left to figure out what their next will be because they've had to leave the workforce to be home with babies, aging parents. So we
Mm-hmm.
call that the sandwich generation
Yep.
and other things. And then there's our, our personal health and our mental and
And our mental health. Yeah.
being. So you've got all of that going on, but we're leaving. And then many of us being African American women, left jobs at the end. Like there was a huge exodus in 18 and 19, 2018, 2019. But then bam, we're hit with COVID. So a lot of us who were doing just entrepreneurship or small business ownership, it ended up not going as well as it could have. And some of us, it was a total opposite. It went through the roof, meaning
It went through the
it
roof.
was amazing. So, but you have all of these dynamics that need that, just the sisterhood.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also mentioned accountability earlier. I have found that is the key need for women in your target audience.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely, I told the women in the Fuel to Fire program, I said, listen, I'm a creative, but I also procrastinate. So please feel free to check in on me and say, hey, did you accomplish that goal that you set out this week? Or did you write a chapter this week like you said you would? I need that type of accountability and positive reinforcement. And so when you talk about sisterhood and camaraderie, that is just so perfect.
Yeah, and but what's crazy is still is in alignment, and this is what I tell
Mm-hmm.
people. Like, yes, you find yourself doing all these different things throughout life, but then you get to the point as you mature, you bring everything in alignment, and like, yes, you may be doing several things, but it's all the same work because
Yeah.
this work is checking on your strong friends. Because I can
Yep.
be strong, but did you write that chapter? So it's
Yep.
a whole different check-in. It's a whole different level of accountability.
It definitely is. And I just feel like with Check on Your Strong Friends, I started out thinking that it was going to be an educational podcast and I was going to give out bullet points and tips every episode, but it became therapy for me because a lot of times I was going in to record right after having to overcome an obstacle. So right after losing a loved one, right after being furloughed from the job. And so I began to just pour it all out on the microphone. So it became very, very real. I think there was even an episode where I was like stood up for a date. Like I talk about being so excited for this date on one episode, and then the next episode I have to come in and be like, well, y'all, I got stood up. So, but that's the beauty of podcasting too. It's literally whatever you make it. The opportunities are endless.
It is, and I know the work that you're gonna do with Bounce Back Advocates is gonna be absolutely amazing and timely as we begin to see things open back up. Yes, we remain safe and guarded, but it's time. It's time to start kind of navigating life, outside of the home. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the events and all the programming that you will be able to present to us in the coming days in your new space.
So excited.
So if you had to list, like, right now, many, we've talked about a number of different resources and strategies. And if there were three things, three apps that you could not live without.
Mm. Instagram. Instagram is my everything. It's my content creation. It's my news, whether it be, CNN style news or whether it be, celebrity gossip news and everything in between. So Instagram, let's see. I'm actually liking Clubhouse. to get in and to listen to those conversations that are just giving free game or positive affirmations, and networking connections. So definitely Clubhouse. And let's see, let me give a good systems app.
You have to be guarded with Clubhouse, though.
Yeah, you can stumble into the wrong room.
But it can suck you in, and you're like, oh shoot, it was 5 o'clock.
It was 5 hours ago. Yeah. Clubhouse, the time flies. So I like those rooms that set a hard start and a hard stop, and they'll just be like, "Oh, we'll be back next week."
That's a good strategy.
Because the ones that go all day, I'm like, I've got things to do.
I got pulled in once, and I was like, "Oh no."
And then the last app for me would be Trello. I worked with a woman named Lynette Robinson of Lighter Living Virtual Solutions. And when I tell you, Iyanla fixed my life, fixed my business. We literally have everything set up for Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. We've got a parking lot. It's amazing. I literally know everything.
For those who don't know what Trello is, Trello pretty much is a project management virtual, but you can tap into it from any device. And I got turned on to it about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I was like, this is too much work. But to see all that stuff in the vision,
yeah,
before you, and you can put reminders. I can share a screen with you. I can have my own private. So I'm using it.
That board is so great.
But okay, Trello.
And you can even move things around. So say I didn't get to everything in Q1, I just move it to Q2 or Q3 or so it's just been so amazing with getting me structured and allowing me to run my business like a business instead of like a hobby. So I'm so grateful to Lynette for that.
That is amazing. And hey, Lynette.
Yeah, shout out to Lynette Robinson.
And so then my last question, I have guessed, impart some wisdom in the nick of time to help someone somewhere. Considering your journey of launching your company and someone is trying to do the same or on the fence, like you said, who am I? And besides, there's a whole bunch of other people doing the same thing. What would you tell them?
I would tell them that your time is now. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what your financial situation looks like. When you are obedient to what your purpose is, what your calling is, what you are meant to do, everything will align for you. Everything, doors will open, the help will come, the team will come, the tribe that is meant to support you will come, the clients and customers will come. So please take that leap of faith, because I promise you and assure you that if you are walking in your purpose, you will never be left behind.
Wow. Lauren Spearman, that was powerful. And I love that you addressed that to all.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's meant to do something. Everybody is put here to do something. Yeah. And there are people out there that are waiting on you to do your thing so that they can be inspired and do their thing. You're their solution to their problem.
I love it. Where can we find more about Lauren Spearman and Bounce Back Advocates and check on your strong friends, all that dynamic work that you're producing?
Awesome. Well, the website is bouncebackadvocate.com. And the Instagram is the Lauren Spearman. I also have an Instagram for Check on Your Strong Friends. It's all together spelled out. And on Facebook, I am Lauren Spearman. I think I'm at my friend capacity, but you can always follow me or send me a DM and I'll find somebody that I went to high school with 20 years ago that I'll knock out the box for you.
I know we have to do that like every I know. Well, this has been such a joy. This cannot be the last time because I definitely I'm going to check on my strong friends.
Yes, please do. It's been an honor and a privilege.
I know, because I'm following you with this book. I cannot wait. And also the events that are going to come up because we're prayerful that we'll be able to get out and be amongst one another, giving hugs and hellos up close and personal, right?
Yes.
Soon. Wonderful. So I want to thank you so much, Lauren Spearman, for joining us and giving us your insight, your transparency. We cannot thank you enough. I know someone is encouraged and will be inspired to keep going despite their age, despite their economic bracket. Um, there's still room for all of us. And thank you, thank you, thank you for the reminder. Want to thank each and every one of our listeners for joining us for another segment of Conversations in the Nick of Time. Salute to Sparkman Pathway to Careers and KSTL 690 AM for trusting us with this. And don't forget, as we begin to depart from this moment, but not from one another, understand that you already have everything you need to be successful, and success as you define it. Just tap into it. Continue to show up.